much more enthusiasm, more people taking risks, more people opening businesses, more people hiring more people, doing more things. What can be more entrepreneurial than that very thing? By the way, very sad discovery here. Radio Shack closing 1,000 stores in a rush. Yep. Radio Shack closed over 1,000 stores after Memorial Day weekend and planned to be left with about 70 company-owned stores. Radio Shack held a before we closed the stores for good sale over the holiday weekend, according to USA Today. The move comes just weeks after the retailer parent company, General Wireless Operations, filed for bankruptcy protection. I used to be a huge fan of Radio Shack, and I don't know what in the world happened, but they used to have a marketing firm back in the 90s. They were really doing much better, where they had an ad campaign, and they would say something to the effect, "You got questions? We've got answers." Radio Shack. And it was a series of these. You got questions, we have answers. I thought if they built upon that and kept building that into 2017, they would have been fine. But so many other box stores left them out in the cold, and even Walmart, started getting into the cell phone business and all that. They just didn't innovate. They just did not. They weren't forward-thinking enough to keep up with the times. And great concept. It was definitely the store before all these other stores were made available or on online platforms. But, again, did not allow technology or their marketing department to be able to keep these stores open. And it's a management issue. For certain, to be able to revamp this, but with the times, they didn't call the right people together. 70 stores, maybe they'll make a comeback again. I thought it was a great move. They started adding more than their products that they designed with their label on it, because the stuff was just kind of middle of the road, wasn't all that terrific. But there was a nice thing years ago where you could go into a Radio Shack and you could find an associate that knew what they were talking about. Whatever you needed, if you had something broken, they'd practically fix it for you. And if they could open up a little repair shop, in my opinion, kind of like Best Buy does, you could bring in your device, and then if it was unfixable or you couldn't fix it, you could buy something new, or you could recycle it. I hope they're listening, but that would have been very innovative. We're going to have little shops. You know how many engineers are out of work or retired that could go in for a part-time job and repair things? They like to do that kind of thing, and they're very good at it. But kind of like the Geek Squad, but for electronics. You know, you bring in your television, bring in your radio, or you blew your subwoofer or your tweeter. You bring it into Radio Shack, and they'll fix it for you. A little repair shop around the country. To me, that would bring new life into that. And if you want to share that with Radio Shack, then do it. Tell them you heard it here. But see, these are kind of opportunities that I just see. I'm just one of those individuals that I look around and I say, okay, what's the obvious? I'll never forget a general manager that hired me after I wrote my own press release. And his name was Chris Gould. And he's still in the radio business. He works for Salem. I worked at Salem Tampa property for several of the radio stations. I did several radio shows for him, and I was the production director, image director, a lot of titles, and it was a great experience. And Chris said, there's going to be many things when you take this position, when you come into this building. And he says, I allow you to make the changes necessary. And there was a lot of things that needed to be done. I had to go in. We had to grow. We made Station of the Year every year that I was there. And I don't know if it was just quinkadink, but we did several awards. And it was a good thing. But I worked very, very hard. And I just see the obvious. And if you are one that sees the obvious, around you, maybe there's a position for you that you can actually formulate and do. And even in retirement, find that something that you can do to lend a hand and make some extra money in the meantime. It'll kind of keep you active. The one thing my grandfather did when my grandmother died, he sat down. He never got up out of that rocker. And surprisingly, he lived longer than we thought he would. But you got to stay active. You know, some of you have gone into churches, and some of you volunteer some of your time, and that keeps your mind sharp, and you got to keep that body moving, and that'll keep you alive. You don't want to sit down. If the body was meant to move, the brain was meant to move, and be engaged. And anyway, speaking about engagement, our radio show depends on its listeners, and if you are engaged, like our water cooler discussion each day, please share the show with your local radio station if they're not already carrying For the People. Share our website with them, forthepeopleshow.com. Let them know why you like to listen to the show, and thank this radio station and do business with the sponsors of the station that carries it. We appreciate you so much. I'm Keith Allen, For the People, saying all the best. May God bless.